Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. Manimuthu Arunmozhi. Manimuthu is an assistant professor in cybersecurity and business analytics at Aston Business School in Birmingham, UK. Today, we will discuss why the biggest threats in the age of AI and quantums aren't just technical, they're issues of leadership and governance. Manimuthu, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, David. Thanks for the invite. And yeah, it's been great pleasure to meet you and thanks for the invite as well. And looking forward to our conversation.
Manimuthu, you have worked as both a deep level infrastructure engineer and now a business school professor. I'm curious, what is the one piece of technical jargon you find yourself having to translate for business leaders most often?
I would definitely say this is a bit tricky choice to make it out. In technical terms, I would definitely say risk usually means probability, impact, and controls.
Hmm.
And for business leaders, risk often sounds abstract until it gets connected to revenue, reputation, and regulatory exposures, or sometimes about operational downtimes. In my role from early career researcher to business consultant and now a cyber professional, all were more or less connected with each other on the technical background on how the different technologies were transitioning at different periods of time. And my job is all about translating different bits and pieces of technology, not only about the critical vulnerabilities and what happens if the system fails, like a Monday morning, how long we get to be offline, or who would be answering our uncomfortable questions. So this triggers a kind of impactful situations for the business terms, saying like the conversations that we shift from one kind of actionable points to an informed decision making really says like where we stand. And this technical jargon is not a one person's problem, but for a community impact, this is something we definitely need to think of. So for me, translating all these things is always going to be a rewarding opportunity because the way we learn technology and way we wanted to see how it is adapted in real-time systems is quite fascinating. So that is pushing our limits beyond certain extent.
Interesting. Manimatu, you often argue that cybersecurity is a leadership and governance issue rather than just a technical one. Uh, Yet, many boards still treat it as a problem for the IT department. What is the one of the things CEOs consistently misunderstand about their personal role in building digital trust?
Of course, being myself an entrepreneur who runs a small scale quantum security company, I would definitely say like CEO always misunderstands about their personal role in digital trust. I do have a good example from my friends and who runs their own businesses. When we have a casual conversations or task, we will always discuss about this. The consistent misunderstanding is like the trust can be delegated at some point of time. And CEOs often, it doesn't need to be CEO, I would definitely phrase it as whoever at the top level of any organizations often assumes cyber is something that only certain people, for example, CISOs alone can handle.
Mhm.
But the digital trust is not something that goes with only one person alone all the time. It is a board level of accountability, and the problem says like the strategy, the incentives, and the risk appetite and the culture. And for the CEO, it is like a personal role, like set the tone, do the bench work, and do the trade-offs. And we get prioritized when the speed and the conflicts are going towards safety, but how teams or gets rewarded. And collectively we say like bad news is always travels fast. And if people believe reporting issues will be punishable offense, you get silence.
Mhm.
And this silence, what I would definitely say, is the first level of breach in every organization.
Mhm.
So I would definitely suggest that if you look under the hood of most incidents, the story is rarely just technical alone. and so that the leaves nicely translating into resilience, or sometimes where the real security gap we need to fill it up. So that is a real challenge, not as a CEO alone, but the top level board need to be really careful.
Mm, mm. Very interesting. Manimatu, in your research on operational resilience, how much of the security gap is actually caused by the flawed software or by the flawed organizational culture?
Uh, I would say like security gap on a whole, I would definitely question it in this way. Is
Mm,
it going to be a software failure alone, or is there
mm,
anything related to the organizational culture as well? Because in practice, the security gap usually about single broken tool, or
mm,
sometimes it may be a chain of loops which we
mm,
can resolve in a short span, or maybe with the technical expertise we can do with a minimal time. But how organizations operate, that is a real kind of question we have to ask ourselves. It can be a software issue, which can be deficit, or a bigger cultural driven opportunity, or unclear ownership, or sometimes we may be rushing back to check certain things like weak controls, who is assigned for this particular task, who is responsible. And I often frame this in my kind of meetings with my fellow mates, saying like software always creates an opening,
mm,
and culture determines whether
mm,
it is going to be an incident, or how we are going to operate in that particular situation. So the resilient organizations treat security as a part of their operational discipline, and it is something like train the people before it gets out of our hand, just as getting a training for the aviations, piloting, measuring up, practicing multiple times, and continuously getting improvised, because we can't benchmark it unless we experience that. And in my experience so far, the cultural pressure to move fast in the ecosystem of digital entrepreneurship is become more intense, that too
mm,
in the technology evolution and AI part. Since AI is involved everywhere, AI promises efficiency, and AI promises whatever you wanted to promise, it will definitely promise. But the cascading effect and the translative opportunities in every business really makes you feel that are you going to be in a comfortable zone, or is there any kind of imprecisions you definitely need further? And that gives us a push how fast you have to run. And that is what we are trying to demonstrate meaningfully, saying are we going to survive in this AI revolution?
mm,
Because 100 years
mm,
back, the industrial revolution came, and
mm,
now we are in the AI revolution, and we are all running. And
mm,
after 100 years of time from now, we are going to face some other revolution, and we keep on running, and there is no backing up, and there is no kind of relaxation mode for any one of us. And now the Gen Z and millennials were there, and they were thinking 10 times faster than us, and the experience we are going to gain from them is immense.
yeah.
So where we are, that kind
Mm,
of gap we still yet to fit, so we are
mm,
working towards those kind of opportunities.
mm, mm. Very good observations. Manimatu, your work explores using AI to optimize infrastructure, yet the same AI introduce new attack surfaces. Are we inadvertently building a digital systems that are becoming too complex for us to ever fully secure?
In a nutshell, I would definitely say yes, because once you build up a good infrastructure, we always need to think about what level of complexity in the AI ecosystem we have to go ahead with. Because security itself is people treating it as a risk. Because, if there is no security feature, what will happen? And if there is an experience of classical examples, for example, the recent cyber attacks, people
Mm,
will clearly justify that why we wanted to invest and what kind of new infrastructure we wanted to build. And apparently, AI and automation can optimize the infrastructure, but they create new attack surfaces as well.
mm,
Because on one side, people were developing some level of autonomy, some level of security. On the other hand, certain people will always try to find loopholes, new way of doing demonstration on attack surfaces and attacks they themselves. I won't say like they were hackers or hackers doing it just for their personal benefits, but it is an exploration of how weak our systems are and what we need to do beyond what we have expected from. And the key shift is moving away from a fantasy of a perfect security
mm,
into a continuous assurance.
mm,
And this is something I have to deal with every day on every meetings. And of course, we have to deal with the local regulations and
mm,
the governance, the
mm,
compliances, the boundaries where we
mm,
operate,
mm,
and how are we going to monitor all these things. And
mm,
you know but all these things needs to be done in a very fast fashion as well,
mm,
because the more quicker you do certain things, more reflection is going to be happening from the user's perspective. Because how we are optimizing is one part. Is it operationally good, ethically proven, and is it going to be acceptable by all the governing bodies? That
mm.
is where we have to put up our whole brains, and we are working on that.
Yeah.
The acceptance rate is just need to be realistic.
Mm. Yeah. Manimathu, as we move toward fully automated agentic systems, how do we actually build trust into an algorithm so that is remain accountable to humans?
I would like to break this one into three different categories.
Mhm,
First, I would like to start with the trust.
mhm,
So, trust in an algorithm isn't just a blind observation. It is a verifiable confidence. It's like how good we are trusting the system. Because if I have no idea about AI, if I am a very common man, I would need an assurance that yes, this system is good for me. And from that level, I need to bring a confidence saying, like, okay, this is perfectly fine. You can start something. And to some extent, we need to say how good the algorithms were. That is where the second point comes in. If somebody is saying, like, my algorithm is 100% foolproof, being an expert in those domains, is it trustable? This is adding to the first point. And I would say, like, is it a meaningful choice or just a tick box exercise? And this leads to the third point saying, like, is it going to be an informed consent, like accept all or the manage cookies options, whatever, whenever we open some websites? Because one way or other, we have to explain certain things, and it has to be very minimal, and it has to say, like, who is accountable if something goes wrong. Because in every situation, for on every product, you and me are going to deal with the same kind of level of concerns, and the regulations applies for both the people. And is it going to be good, the first choice, or is it going to be verifiable? Okay, where it is going to be, and who is going to be accountable? The choice is on the end user's perspective. Companies sell the product and users is going to use it.
mhm,
Unless a data breach happens, then comes accountability. Who is going to be liable? Who is accountable? And how this lawsuit's going to be working up? That's where the entire organizational perspectives, complaints and governance were coming into the picture. So I would say, like, all these things has to go hand in hand together.
mm. Very interesting. Very good. Manimathu, you have noted that privacy risks are often embedded by design in modern platforms. Since technology moves much faster than the law, is our current systems of accept all consent buttons fundamentally broken?
In many cases, yes, because in insensitivizing certain things, we have good projects as well being funded from Innovate UK and UKRI. Insensitivizing complex theaters is not just something we are doing it on a daily basis, but it is something for the user's urgency as the local regulations, how the governing council sees this kind of accept all kind of toggle options, what we are providing for the end users. The interface design itself is going to nudge people saying, like, okay, this is the fastest path. And is there any other alternative options we are going to give them? Not the most informed one. If it is going to be visibly available for you to choose, then you may be opting out for the best preferences what you're looking up for. But I would definitely say privacy by design is definitely is always going to be a default option. No backing up anymore, because back in 2018 we started to work on different projects focusing on privacy by design, and there are a lot of translative opportunities as well. Is it something only related to the privacy, or is it something beyond the privacy, or security by design, or how are we going to combine the security operations with privacy? Or is there anything else we have to do apart from privacy and security in the cyber domain? Because the participation of AI in this running race has elevated all the complexity beyond our imagination. So, all that matters for us is like the coherence conveniences we are putting up in practice, how good we are. Because I am currently in UK and I
mm,
am following the UK's regulations, and you are in different zone and you are
mm,
going to follow different regulations. And is there any possibilities we can work together on a common ground?
mm,
That is a real typical challenge we are putting up and we are facing as well. And moreover, more or less, the global environment says like accept all is good. You have the accept all, I have the accept all, but the behind compliance and governance is going to change.
mm,
That's where we are.
mm. Yeah. And honestly, how many of us really read the whole form? We just try to get into our business, so we just check all.
Yes. Me myself will never do that because we don't have time. Actually, we don't have time, and that's where the real challenge and real problem itself is starting.
Yeah. Manumatu, your work spans the UK, Europe, and the global south. What are the unique cybersecurity challenges or perhaps innovations you have seen in the global south that Western leaders should be paying more attention to?
From my understandings and from my kind of experience so far, two things really stands out.
Mm,
First thing I would say is a leapfrog innovation,
mm,
saying like mobile first infrastructure because it is very convenient. And the second thing is working towards digital identity. Before coming to the UK, I was working as a research fellow in Singapore for almost close to 10 years' time. And the fintech ecosystems, the technology observations, and technology design and developments were massive. And this community led practice is driven by the people and their acceptance level. And everybody is trying to learn, willing to contribute. And this led as a kind of a community driven opportunity for every innovator and the end user. And this evolution gives us a faster phase how we wanted to lift us before the western part took these kind of opportunities or take these kind of possible ventures to do certain things. And the next thing is from the threat context, I would say, like, since we are talking about cybersecurity, threat is always a driving factors for people like us.
mm,
Is there any resource constraints we have, or if we are having infrastructure fragility, or is it something like device diversity, or if you're looking for enforcements or enforcement realities? Western leaders or the leaders in general should definitely pay attention to resilience. Is it like resilience under constraint, or sometimes you may be having opportunity from those resilience as it evolves? Because of most of these practical and scalable security approaches emerge when we have a budget constraint. Because we always say like, I will give this particular budget alone. What are you going to do?
mm,
Because business owners always have the budget restrictions at all point of time.
mhm,
And if the impact is immediate, okay, fine, we will grab that. But if this impact is not going to affect my infrastructure, okay, we sit back, relax, and do our own things. And then when the time comes, we will do
mm,
that.
mm,
Because this is the gap
mm,
from global south to western part, or rest all almost the same. But I won't say there is a discrimination of technology or the innovations happening up, but the time it takes for us to consume these things is quite challenging.
mm,
quite different.
mm. Very interesting. Um, Manu Matu, you founded a QSafe, an Innovate UK-funded cybersecurity project to tackle quantum threats, which many think is a problem for the 2030s. Why do you need to build quantum resilient solution today rather than waiting for the 2030s?
I am still building QSafe because quantum risk is moving
Mm,
from theoretical aspects into a practical reality. And many governments, including UK, they were urging the businesses to implement quantum resilience and quantum measures within their infrastructure. And this shows all of us very clearly that organizations are preparing themselves to protect their infrastructure from quantum wave. And this gives us an opportunity, saying like we wanted to think well in advance who is going to be affected from this quantum risk and quantum kind of threats and problems. And we don't have enough time to migrate. That is the real challenge. We have to face it. And it is not something I have to do immediately, but step by step. A gradual progression is definitely essential. It depends upon the company's infrastructure as well. And founding this one gave me an opportunity to discuss quantum security and quantum threat with people in this particular field, and everybody were on the same page. Everybody, irrespective of which country we were operating from, everybody still believes that every organization is equipping themselves for quantum level security.
mm,
And it forced me to translate theory. One
mm,
thing is how the theory, whatever we have seen, read, theoretized, written for examinations, has been translated into a product. Fine. What
mm,
kind of product we are? Is it going to be a trade-off, or is it going to be from the user's experience, or both?
mm,
How are we going to implement this in an existing infrastructure where the adoption barriers is going to be there? And on the other hand, it made me more evidence driven because I've been in the quantum security for almost 5 years now. And evidence driven in the sense like organizations, how they operate, and is there any existing quantum level measures? You can name the enterprises, you can name the MNCs, and you can name the Fortune 500 companies, and you can list them. How many companies are ready for quantum level infringement, quantum level threats? Unfortunately, at Aston Business School, since I am an early career academic lead, I always had an opportunity to discuss different levels of expertise domain with our fellow colleagues. And though fellow colleagues may be having experience in a project or running their own ventures or doing a smaller micro projects and so on. And it sharpened my focus as well on how the responsible adoption has to be because my colleagues always works with industries,
mm,
and the industry experience really matters when we
mm,
are developing a technology related products because at the end, once again back to the same story, we need investors, we need funders, and funders needs to be convinced what we are building first. And not just it is what possible, but I would say like what is governable first, is it usable? Second, and the third thing is it defensible? That's where the cyber expertise itself is coming. And you can name less than 10 companies in the UK who is actively working fully on quantum related products.
mm,
And we are one among them.
mm. Great. Manimatu, you are a strong advocate for interdisciplinary research. If you could bring cybersecurity engineers and social scientists together to solve a single problem, what what would be?
It is a weird combination, but it is the best possible way to combine two different extremes. I would definitely force them to solve how securely we can build a system which
Mm,
is going to be behavior centric
mm,
without any friction and with 100% acceptance from every end users. Because from my perspective, I can build a product for quantum level security, but at the end, if I am not able to convince the end user about the product, then it is going to be a failure. It is going to be a disaster. I need to resolve this one from the very beginning itself. Where we are going to put this? Who is my good to go market? Or who is the responsible users? What kind of functional flexibility I need to provide them? Because designing is our first challenge. Before that, who it is for? How to design the scalable versions or different versions. And I would say engineers brings threat models for sure. Being myself an engineer, I can definitely say I can list out a lot of threat models related to cyber, related to quantum, and blah 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 things.
Mhm.
But social scientist always brings insights from incentives, saying like the trust, norms, human decisions,
Mhm.
and is it going to be workable? Is it going to be acceptable?
Mhm.
Or is it convincing for the end users? And I would say, like, is it authentication going better? Or is it going to be only within the consent management? Or is it about reporting or giving a default setting? All that matters. And how are you going to get this? From the behavioral centric aspects, what we are getting from the social scientist. And I would say, like, this is a weird
Mhm.
combination,
Mhm.
but it is essential in the technology adoption.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very well put it. Uh, Manimatu, looking ahead a decade, what is one real world impact you hope your work on responsible technology adoption will have achieved for society?
Uh, I would definitely say I want my work on responsible technology adoption to help normalize a world where organizations treat cyber and privacy like their operational safety, which is definitely a measurable, an auditable, and routinely exercised versions and owned by leadership.
Mm,
Leadership, as in the governing councils, the top authorities, or people who have the decision making authorities, they have to take care of all these things. Not buried with IT alone or CISOs alone all the time. And the impact I am aiming for is practical, and it is definitely going to support better governance decisions and sometimes assist stronger resilience and fewer preventable harms. Of course, I won't say we can avoid harming certain kind of infrastructure, but for
mm,
sure fewer responsible way we can mitigate certain things. And the real time accountability is something I always look forward for, because in the AI driven systems embedded in our everyday practices, we definitely seek that kind of cultural diversity where I wanted to see myself maybe in 10 years' time. No, next Monday, where I wanted to see myself.
mm,
And in a month time, what I want to do. And in a week time, or in 6 months' time, or in quarter
mm,
four or quarter five in every year, what I wanted to do. Because bring it back to the leaders listening factors, I would say tomorrow is not the best day. Do it today. That is
mm,
something I wanted to share and I
mm.
wanted to do for sure.
Wonderful. Manimatu, for a business leader feeling overwhelmed by the speed of AI and quantum threats, what is the very first governance steps they should take tomorrow morning to move securely from a technical concern to a leadership priority?
Different people may be having different opinions on this particular question, but in my operative situations in my company or in my level of understandings, I would say start with clear risk ownership and decision cadence. Appoint an accountable executive owner, maybe for digital trust. Sometimes define what is the risk appetite we are looking forward for, and maybe if possible in a plain language state what is the thing we need to do. And definitely for sure we need to establish a monthly forum saying like what is the top risk, what is the never miss options we have, or sometimes we need to be resilience readiness charters. And it is not about the compliance part alone I am talking. I need to say ultra concrete. Ask for one page review of what we are going to do just to survive, just to survive in this particular technology revolution. because every company is trying to survive, not to prove anything to anybody here. And being in an SME ecosystem, we are not competing with the tech giants. And there are so many classical examples as well. Couple of years back, nobody have ever thought large language models were going to be in practice.
Mhm.
And now, after 2 years time, without large language models, nobody is going to survive.
Mhm.
And this is a kind of a transition.
Mhm.
And for sure, in next 2 years time, we may be having different levels of technology, and we get used to those kind of situations. And I won't say this kind of new changes are always bad, but unless it is going to be infiltrating our existing practices, who we are as a common man, if that is doing that, then it is going to be a critical challenge we have to address. So I would say, like, fund the gap if it is in a very good way
Mhm.
from an organizational perspective. And
Mhm.
if it is solving some real challenge, then perfectly fine. Do this as your first governance step, and all
Mhm.
that matters will follow up.
Good advice. Manimatu, finally, for the students or young professionals listening who want to enter this field, what is your advice to them to succeed in this new era of digital trust?
For the students, I assume that they may be having initial understanding about cyber technologies or cyber security in general, right? At least introductory part. It is very much essential to choose which trajectory they wanted to take, because cyber domain is very vast.
Mm,
It is huge, and we have multiple domains within cybersecurity itself. If they want penetration testing, ethical hacking, digital forensic, or misinformation, deep fake, different versatilities of cybersecurity is there. And it is something they have to do as a homework, where they wanted to see themselves in next 5 years time or next few years time, and choose those, and do some certifications, or if there is possibility, do some short term courses, or do some masters, or join some active research labs in different universities to gain the exposure of these technologies first. And who knows, after gaining this kind of extraordinary technologies, they can bring their own ventures as well. I have few friends from universities. They have started their kind of companies as a university spin-off,
mm,
and this gives a kind of impression that everything is possible, and we don't need to say the Gen Z people and millennials that what they have to do. For sure they know what they wanted to do and what they should not do, because that is where we are learning from,
yeah.
and that is where I am personally learning from, because the hiring aspect itself got changed, and the bookish kind of nature of people has changed drastically. And this is the kind of direction I need to tell them, for my younger generation, saying,
Mm,
like, if they wanted to start their career in cybersecurity, we have so many options to choose. But I will definitely say we can't master in every options,
mm.
but at least one, this is the actual route they can definitely take.
Manimatu, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your work. We wish you every success with your future endeavors in this field.
Thank you, David. Thanks for your invite once again, and it was my pleasure as well to share some of my views on your questions.